Because there's two fundamental things, two fundamental American values. Representation, that we should have a voice, at least someone who can represent us in government and speak for us. And if you're going to strip us of that with this partisan gerrymander that takes us down to 7% representation in this state, then we have lost our representation. Myself and my co-authors, have introduced this resolution, which is the constitutional way to go about forming a new state. Article 4 of the Constitution allows for the creation of a new state if you get the consent of both houses of the state legislature and the Congress. So that is what we have proposed with this measure. But I also believe this is going to be a very locally driven, and it's probably going to be a long process. And it starts with these communities having these discussions, talking about whether or not we want to move forward and move in our own way, a new direction, and have our own statehood, self-determination. What does that mean? The ability to pursue your dreams, to pursue your will and the things that you would like to do in your life. And I'm telling you, the people in the inland California don't have that ability right now. Because they keep getting tax after tax, regulation after regulation, cost after cost passed on to them. And the elites, the politicians say, well, it's because we have to do this. It's all part of some greater good, but they're the ones who lose. And so quite frankly, we've had enough of it.
I want to start by saying what this is not about. It is not about Texas. And actually, you all just conceded that by your vote this morning when you amended ACA 8 to take out Texas as a condition. And that this bill that you are voting on right now doesn't have Texas as a condition and commits California to going back to gerrymandering. And you should really think twice before you go ahead and do that today. It's about power. We know that. It's about power on both sides. Rigging congressional districts to get partisan results. That's what a gerrymander is. Now, the governor says it's about fighting fire with fire. And what I want to submit to you all today is that fighting fire with fire is the problem. It's not the solution. President Trump is fighting fire with fire. He saw how government was weaponized against him with a Democratic majority in Washington, D.C. in his first term. He saw how states like Illinois and Massachusetts, Hawaii, have severely gerrymandered their congressional districts in ways that ensure more Democratic members are elected. And he seeks to do the same thing in Texas. He is wrong to do so. Let me repeat again. He is wrong to do so. Gavin is fighting fire with fire. So now he's pushing this redistricting plan, this Gavin-mander, illegally, against the Constitution, as we pointed out time and time again in the committee hearing, well, the one committee hearing we had on policy grounds. He's violating the Constitution and the clear will of the voters who've already spoken twice. We really don't need to ask them a third time, guys. Twice they told us they want independent redistricting, fair representation. But where does it end? You move forward today, and you have the power to do so. You can do that. And Gavin can move forward. He's a governor. He has the power. Greg Abbott has the power in Texas. You move forward fighting fire with fire, what happens? You burn it all down. And in this case, it affects our most fundamental American principle, representation. Wasn't that the battle cry of our founding forebears? No taxation without representation. But the people's right to representation is exactly what will be sacrificed when we continue down this road. When after you do it, Missouri does it, or Indiana does it, Colorado's talking about doing it. At the end of that, the parties will determine who represents, and the people will be powerless to elect their own representatives.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I rise in strong support of ACA 8. And like at least 2/3 of you in this room, I read the constitutional amendment, which makes it very clear that we are not approving any maps in this body. We are giving the voters the decision, something that isn't happening in Texas. And even doing that was something we had to debate fiercely. California's responsibility to Californians and Californians' responsibility to this country. We didn't want to be in this situation. The authoritarian in the White House put us in this situation when he used House Republicans in Texas to disenfranchise vulnerable people. After those maps in Texas are approved, a Latino voice in Texas is worth 1/3 of the representation as a white voice. A black voter in Texas is worth 1/5 of the representation of a white voter in Texas. I didn't say 3/5. There was no compromise. I said 1/5. That is the kind of gerrymandering, that is the kind of theft that they are perpetuating. And we can't just sit by and let it happen. We won't just sit by and let it happen. But that doesn't mean we lose ourselves. That's why when I was chair of the Elections Committee, I authored an update to the Fair Maps Act that prevented incumbency from being a consideration in map drawing, and every single Republican on this floor voted against it. That's why I authored legislation calling for independent redistricting commissions on school boards and counties and special districts all throughout the state, and every Republican in this House voted against it. How convenient to switch your tone when you are now on the line. When we are stepping up and speaking the way Californians deserve for us to stand up and fight, because we are tired of being the punching bag of this country. When we freely give, when North Carolina is on fire, we show up. When a hurricane hits Florida, we show up. When Texas is flooding, we show up. We don't wait for Canada and Mexico to show up first, like Texas did supporting Los Angeles this year. We come immediately. When we pay $80 billion more in federal taxes than we get back, we don't complain. We know our role is to support others. And when the biggest disaster to ever hit our state hits and we ask for a portion of our own dollars back and you withhold it, we have to change our tone. We have to step up, because your silence is deafening. When they took health care and food and veterans assistance, and they made it harder for students to go to college, and they put trillions of dollars in national debt, and you said nothing. That forced us to step into the void. When they held our #1 public university hostage for $1 billion of California tax dollars, and you have said nothing, we had to step into that void. You talk about fighting fire with fire and how we shouldn't do that, while simultaneously a member of your own caucus just yesterday asked the Department of Justice and Pam Biondi to investigate us criminally. I took that personally, that you didn't say anything. We are not just going to sit by and let our democracy crumble. Here in California, we're standing on business, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.